I stood there, bouquet trembling in my hands, watching my sister Lisa walk down the aisle, in my wedding dress, holding hands with my fiancé. The chapel erupted in applause, cameras flashed, and my mother wiped away a tear. Of joy. Not for me, for them. She's always been the prettier one, someone whispered behind me. Maybe it was bound to happen. No one looked at me, no one stopped them. And in that frozen moment, I realized this wasn't the first time Lisa had taken something that was mine. It was just the first time everyone applauded her for it. You see, Lisa has been playing a game her whole life, and for years I let her win, until today. Because when they handed me the mic for my maid of honor speech, they had no idea what I was about to say. Have you ever been betrayed by the one person who swore they loved you? Have you ever smiled through tears just to stop the shaking in your chest? If you were me, what would you have said into that microphone? Tell me below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the speech I gave didn't just ruin a wedding. It rewrote our family forever. My name is Sarah Thompson. I'm 29 years old, born and raised in Savannah, Georgia. I teach 3rd grade at a local elementary school. And until a few weeks ago, I thought my life was finally falling into place. I've always been the quiet one in the family, the one who followed rules, cleaned up after everyone's mess, and stayed out of drama. Growing up, Lisa was the fire, loud, bold, magnetic. She could charm her way out of anything, and she knew it. I was the shadow trailing behind her, the one who heard, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" more times than I could count. But I never envied her, not really. I admired her, in a twisted way. Lisa was chaos, but she made people feel alive. I just made people feel safe. 3 years ago, I met Ben at a school fundraiser. He was volunteering as a photographer for the event. Tall, soft-spoken, with this quiet intelligence that made me lean in whenever he talked. We clicked instantly. It wasn't fireworks and movie scenes. It was steady, slow, and real. The kind of love I'd always hoped for. Lisa met him a month later at my birthday dinner. She gave him one of those lingering hugs she always gave attractive men, and smiled that smile she saves for stealing attention. I brushed it off. That's just Lisa, I told myself. She flirts with everyone. Ben's with me. Over the next few years, things moved forward. Ben and I got engaged last fall under a canopy of golden leaves at Forsyth Park. It was quiet, intimate, just the two of us. Exactly how I wanted it. I cried when he slipped the ring on my finger. For once, my life felt like it was mine. Lisa squealed when I told her the news. She hugged me too tight and said she couldn't wait to be my maid of honor. She even offered to help plan the whole thing. I should have known something was off when she started making decisions without asking. Booking a different caterer because your menu was too safe. Changing my florist behind my back. Insisting that I let her pick my dress because she knew what looked best on me. Every time I pushed back, she'd laugh. "Relax, Sarah. You're so tense all the time. Let me help you make this day unforgettable." And I did. I let her help. Because I still believed, maybe foolishly, that deep down she loved me. But things got weirder as the big day approached. Ben started acting distant. He claimed he was just stressed about the wedding and work, but he stopped sleeping over. He ignored my texts for hours. One night, I called him 3 times in a row, and he finally picked up with a groggy voice, like I'd woken him from sleep. At 8 p.m. I chalked it up to nerves. Everyone gets cold feet, right? Lisa brushed it off when I asked. Men are all the same. They freak out, then show up crying on the wedding day. But the look in her eyes didn't match her voice. There was something smug beneath the surface, something I couldn't name yet. Then came the morning I walked into the bridal suite and found her in my wedding dress, twirling in front of the mirror. "Oh," she said, startled. "I was just trying it on for fun. Don't freak out." She was barefoot, her hair down, and for a moment, a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, she looked like me. I laughed it off, but inside, my stomach churned. Still, I told myself, she wouldn't. She couldn't. She's my sister. That was the last lie I told myself before everything fell apart. The days leading up to the wedding felt like walking through a dream I couldn't quite wake from. Or maybe it was a nightmare, one I kept denying because I didn't want it to be real. Ben moved out of our shared apartment 3 days before the wedding. He said, "Just to clear my head. I need space to breathe before the big day." I remember standing at the doorway, arms crossed over my chest, watching him stuff his duffel bag with barely folded shirts. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just nodded and said, "Okay, if that's what you need." But the space between us was no longer about breathing room. It was a canyon. And Lisa? Lisa had started filling it. She called me that night to ask if I wanted her to come over and keep me company. "No," I said quickly. "I'm fine." She laughed. "God, Sarah, you've always been so good at pretending." I stared at the phone long after she hung up, trying to figure out what she meant. But that was the thing with Lisa. She'd drop these tiny, sharp comments like thumbtacks in your path. And by the time you felt the pain, she was already halfway down the road, pretending she hadn't noticed. The rehearsal dinner was a mess. Ben didn't show up. Lisa claimed he had a migraine. "He's been working so hard." "Give him a break," she said, pouring herself another glass of wine. She gave a toast that night, a speech that was supposed to be about me and Ben. But somehow, it became a string of stories about our childhood, about how she always had to rescue me from everything. Sarah's always been the careful one, the hesitant one. But I pushed her to live a little. I pushed her into the pool when she was scared. I set her up on her first date. I even convinced her to wear makeup in high school. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but it tasted bitter. Then she looked straight at me and said, "And now I'm so proud to stand beside her as she takes the biggest leap of her life. Let's just hope she doesn't trip." There was polite laughter again. My father even chuckled. I sat there smiling, my cheeks stiff, wondering how no one else could hear the blade behind her words. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every moment, every hug that lingered too long between Lisa and Ben, every whisper, every private errand they ran together for the wedding. I wanted to be wrong. I prayed I was wrong. And yet, deep in my chest, something was cracking open. The morning of the wedding came bright and cruel, Savannah sunlit and heavy with heat. I arrived at the church early, needing a moment of peace before the chaos. But there was no one there, not my bridesmaids, not Ben, not Lisa. I waited in the bridal suite, staring at my reflection, barely recognizing the woman in white. I adjusted the veil, smoothed the fabric, tried not to cry. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin, Rachel. "Are you okay? Why are they walking down the aisle?" I stared at the message, my stomach turning to ice. I bolted out of the room, heels clicking down the marble hallway. I pushed the double doors open just in time to see them, Lisa and Ben, walking down the aisle hand in hand, smiling like it was their day. Gasps filled the air. A few people clapped. And then came the sound that made my blood run cold. My mother's voice. "Oh, Lisa looks stunning. What a perfect pair." The world blurred. My fingers went numb. And yet, I walked forward, up the aisle, each step like marching through wet cement. No one stopped me. No one turned. They were too busy watching the golden daughter make her grand entrance. Lisa turned as I reached the front. She smiled, that same sly, crooked smile I'd seen 100 times, over 100 betrayals. "Don't look so shocked, Sarah," she whispered. "You always knew he'd choose me." I don't remember dropping the bouquet. I don't remember the sound it made when it hit the marble floor. But I remember the silence that followed, the kind of silence that roars in your ears. I looked around the room, searching for just one face that reflected the horror I was feeling. But all I saw were eyes avoiding mine, heads slightly tilted with awkward sympathy, or worse, approval. Ben didn't even flinch. He stood there like a statue next to my sister, fingers still laced with hers, his jaw tight. He couldn't even look at me. My father stood beside the pastor with a blank expression. My mother sniffled into a tissue, like this was some emotional twist in a soap opera she'd been rooting for. And Lisa? Lisa stepped forward like she was about to accept an award. "I know this is a surprise," she began, her voice trembling with a practiced kind of vulnerability. "But love doesn't follow a script. Ben and I, we didn't plan this. It just happened. We didn't want to hurt anyone, especially not Sarah. But we couldn't lie anymore." She turned to the crowd as if expecting applause. Instead, what she got was stunned silence. And then, one single clap from the back of the church. My Uncle George, always the one for uncomfortable moments. Lisa smiled tighter. I stood frozen for what felt like hours. Then slowly, I picked up the microphone, meant for my maid of honor speech. It had been waiting there, already turned on, already part of the stage. And with the calm of someone who has nothing left to lose, I stepped forward. I could feel Lisa's eyes narrow, but she didn't move. She thought I was going to cry. She thought I was going to plead, or walk away, or collapse. She didn't know me at all. I cleared my throat. "Well," I said, "I suppose it's still my job to deliver a speech." A few heads turned sharply. After all, I am the maid of honor, or at least I was this morning. Someone in the pews let out a nervous chuckle. I had a whole thing written, funny stories, childhood memories, quotes about love and commitment. But standing here now, looking at my sister and the man who was supposed to marry me, I realize those stories don't matter anymore. Lisa shifted. Ben finally looked up, not at me, but at the floor. I took a breath. Instead, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for reminding me, once again, exactly who you are. And thank you, Ben, for saving me from spending the rest of my life married to a man who could be stolen like loose change. There were gasps. Someone covered their mouth. My aunt whispered, "Oh my God." Lisa opened her mouth, but I held up a finger. "I'm not finished." I turned back to the audience. "You see, Lisa and I, we go way back. Not just as sisters, but as competitors. Though I didn't know we were competing until I was old enough to realize that every time I got something I loved, she found a way to take it." The air thickened. "When I was 10, I won a spelling bee. She told everyone I cheated. When I turned 16 and got my first boyfriend, she kissed him at a party a week later. She always said it was just a joke, that I was too sensitive, that I should loosen up." I paused, scanning the room. And now? She's taken the man I was supposed to marry, on my wedding day, wearing my dress, in front of our family. I turned to Lisa, who was pale now, her lips pressed into a tight line. But the funny thing is, I'm not even angry, not anymore. Lisa blinked, confused. Ben looked up. "Because today isn't a tragedy, it's a revelation. It's the day I stopped pretending. The day I stopped shrinking myself to make others comfortable." I stepped back. "And while I won't be joining this ceremony, I'll be leaving with something far more valuable than a husband or a ring." I let the silence hold for a beat. "I'll be leaving with the truth, and that's something no one here can steal from me ever again." No one moved. No one even breathed. I stepped away from the microphone, heels echoing on the church floor like war drums in a silent battlefield. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked, head high, spine straight, through the aisle I was supposed to walk down as a bride. And now I walked it alone, but not defeated. Behind me, the whispers began like wind catching fire. "What just happened? Did you know about this? Is this for real?" I didn't stop to hear the answers. I didn't need to. The silence on Lisa's face as I spoke was enough. For once she hadn't been in control. For once she didn't get to rewrite the story. I pushed open the church doors and stepped into the blistering Georgia heat. It hit my skin like a rebirth. My vision blurred for a second, not from tears, but from light, from freedom. Rachel, my cousin, and one of my original bridesmaids came running after me. "Sarah, wait, I don't even have words." I turned to her. "Are they still in there?" She nodded. "Stuck like statues. Your dad's trying to save face. Your mom looks like she swallowed a lemon." I snorted. "And Lisa?" Like someone finally held a mirror to her face. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, grateful that someone had followed me out, that not everyone had clapped for the betrayal. "You going to be okay?" Rachel asked. I looked at her. "Eventually, but I'm not done yet." Because the world deserved to know what kind of person Lisa really was. Not just the guests in that church, but everyone who ever smiled at her, trusted her, believed the lies that dripped from her lips like honey-covered poison. And I had the perfect way to do it. The video. Uncle George, awkward, tech-obsessed, always filming everything, had been recording the entire ceremony, including my speech. I remembered the small camera mounted on his chest, blinking red as I spoke. I called him that night. "Uncle George, I need that footage." He was quiet for a beat. "Sarah, what you did was brave. And brutal. You sure you want to put that out there?" "I'm sure." 2 days later, the video was online. Titled, Maid of Honor Exposes Bride and Groom in Savage Wedding Speech. Within 24 hours, it had 500,000 views. By the end of the week, 4 million. People flooded the comments. This is the most composed savage mic drop I've ever seen. Imagine stealing your sister's man and then getting humiliated like that. Deserved. The way she didn't cry, the way she walked out. Queen energy. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the background character in Lisa's story. I was the narrator, and people were listening. Lisa tried to do damage control. She posted some half-hearted caption with a picture of her and Ben in front of the altar, trying to make it seem like a fairy tale. Comments were disabled within minutes. Then came the fallout. Ben lost his job. Turns out his company didn't appreciate employees who got caught up in viral scandal, especially ones involving betrayal, public shaming, and bad PR. Lisa was fired from her PR firm a week later. Doesn't align with company values, they said. Our family split down the middle. Half of them blamed me for airing dirty laundry, and the other half? They called me to apologize for never noticing, for never stopping her. And then came the emails. Dozens, then hundreds. Women from all over the world, sisters, daughters, brides, ex-wives, all writing to say, thank you, for saying what I never could. Some of them sent stories of their own betrayals. Some asked me to share their voices. And something clicked. Maybe this wasn't just about me anymore. I started a blog, at first just for therapy, but then it grew. I called it Veil Off, stories behind the lies, from women who refused to stay silent. And slowly, I rebuilt myself, not as a bride, not as a sister, but as a woman who refused to be erased. Because revenge didn't always come with fire. Sometimes it came with clarity, with one microphone, and the truth. It took exactly 3 weeks for everything to fall apart, not for me, but for them. Lisa and Ben tried to pretend nothing had happened. They even staged a fake honeymoon trip to Charleston, posting grainy photos of champagne glasses and beach sunsets. But the internet isn't stupid. People dug deeper. A Reddit thread popped up. The bride who stole her sister's fiancé. Anyone have more tea? Within hours, people were dissecting everything, from Lisa's work history to Ben's past relationships. Screenshots of old social media posts resurfaced. One even showed Lisa gushing over Ben back when he was still dating me. The caption, "Some men just belong in the wrong arms." The post went viral. Ben deleted his accounts. Lisa tried to pivot, saying it was all exaggerated, that I had a history of emotional instability, and that the video was edited to twist the truth. But Uncle George released the raw footage. No cuts, no edits. Just 17 minutes of heartbreak and cold, deliberate honesty. There was no coming back from that. I heard they broke up. Someone sent me a screenshot of Lisa's cryptic Instagram story. Sometimes the people you think are soulmates are just mirrors of your worst mistakes. I didn't respond. I didn't even feel joy, just closure. Meanwhile, Veil Off exploded. Women wrote in daily, confessing heartbreaks at the altar. Best friends who slept with their boyfriends. Sisters who turned weddings into battlegrounds. Each story different, but all connected by one thread: betrayal and survival. One letter stuck with me. A girl named Mandy from upstate New York wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to walk away the night before my wedding. I caught my fiancé with my cousin. I thought I was crazy. But then I saw your face as you stood at that altar, and I knew I wasn't alone. I cried that night. For her, for me, for all the women who had been told to smile through humiliation." That same week, I got invited to speak on a podcast. The Breakup Diaries, one of those niche but fiercely followed platforms where women told the truth, raw and unfiltered. I shared everything, no edits, no fake grace, just the real story. The episode broke records. And suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who got left at the altar anymore. I was Sarah Thompson, the woman who stood her ground in a white dress and told the world what she would no longer accept. Even local news picked it up. One anchor called it a modern-day reckoning at the altar. Lisa sent me a long email after that. It wasn't an apology. It was self-pity, wrapped in faux remorse. She said she never meant to fall for him, that she felt invisible growing up next to me. The irony so thick, I had to laugh. She asked if we could talk. I didn't reply, because this wasn't about vengeance anymore. This was about boundaries, and mine had finally found their voice. As for Ben, I haven't heard a word from him. Last I checked, he'd moved to a smaller city, working freelance. A mutual friend told me he keeps to himself, rarely dates, and avoids cameras. I don't hate him, but I no longer carry the version of him I once loved. That version never really existed. And me? I sold the ring, used the money to start a home studio. I now write full-time. The blog pays my bills, and I run workshops for women learning how to tell their own stories, with power, with clarity, and without apology. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Being humiliated at the altar doesn't destroy you, it frees you. And sometimes the most unforgettable love story is the one you write for yourself. 1 year later, on what would have been my first wedding anniversary, I woke up not to heartbreak, but to sunlight pouring through the windows of my tiny but beautiful apartment in Charleston. There were no flowers, no ring, no man snoring beside me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. I poured myself a cup of coffee, stepped out onto the small balcony lined with potted lavender, and opened my laptop. The veil-off inbox had over 200 new messages overnight. Women from Italy, Canada, South Africa, all writing in with their stories, their scars, their resilience. I was no longer alone in my pain. I was part of something bigger. That morning, I didn't cry. I didn't relive what happened. I didn't scroll through old photos or rewatch the video that had changed everything. Instead, I put on a soft linen blouse, pinned my hair up, and headed to my flower shop. Yes, my flower shop. I opened it 6 months ago. A dream I'd buried under someone else's timeline, someone else's priorities. It's called Second Bloom, because I believe women deserve second chapters, and third ones too, if that's what it takes. Customers come in not just for tulips and daisies, but for something softer, quieter. The kind of healing that comes from color and scent and presence. And on one little shelf near the register, there's a copy of my printed blog collection. It's called The Day I Didn't Break. Sometimes I catch women reading it while their kids pick out succulents. They tear up, they nod, they whisper, "Thank you." And I whisper back, "You're welcome. You're not alone." I don't hate Lisa anymore, not because she didn't deserve it, she did, but because holding on to hate feels like drinking poison and hoping the other person suffers. Lisa moved out of state after the scandal. We haven't spoken since her last email. Last I heard, she's working at a corporate job, low level, and stays off social media. The golden girl finally dimmed under the weight of her own lies. And Ben? He remains a ghost, a cautionary memory I no longer feed. Because he wasn't the ending of my story. He was just the interruption that led me here, to this life, to this purpose, to this version of Sarah. The one who doesn't beg to be chosen. The one who no longer shrinks. So here's what I'll leave you with. Never apologize for standing up in the middle of your own heartbreak. Never dim your truth for the comfort of traitors. And never mistake betrayal for the end of your story. Because sometimes, the altar isn't a place where something begins. Sometimes, it's the stage you walk off of, so you can finally start living. And that microphone, I still have it, mounted on my wall, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of power. What did you think of this story? If you were in Sarah's shoes, would you have spoken up at the altar or walked away in silence? Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, share your story below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories so you never miss a new episode of true, powerful karma every single day. Sometimes, walking away with your dignity is louder than any scream. And sometimes, a mic is mightier than the sword.